anticipate us testing this week. It'll probably be next week. We'll still have notes this week as far as I know. So, and then next week will be a test week. So there are a couple warm-up questions here for you guys. Let's bring it back a little because I don't think the recording arm's that long. We'll go get it. So take a minute to look at those warm-up questions. So kind of some integer stuff, but again, I'm asking you to try to do it without a calculator, just so that you guys get that practice of not relying on your calculator for everything. I have to get used to writing on this board. It's a little different. So. It's a little pokey. All right, so with our warm-up questions, kind of taking us through some integer work because we're going to be using this a lot today in what we're doing. This comes up a lot with slope, in terms of being able to add and subtract positives and negatives. So just being comfortable with that without having to automatically go to a calculator. Now I'm not saying I'm taking your calculator away if you're like, oh no, this means no calculator for the test. That's not the case. It's just trying to not rely on it maybe quite as much. So -4 minus 3, what does that end up being? -7. Down 4, down 3 more, so it ends up being a -7. 5 minus a -1, how do you think of that as? Yeah, I changed that 2 negatives to a plus. So 5 plus 1. So that ends up being just 6. And kind of the same idea here, that I'll do -7 plus 2. And then if we want to combine those, but it's more negative than positive. So I go down 7 and then back up 2. Where am I at still? -5. So it's still a negative. Gone up a little bit. We're still at a -5. All right. So using those today is going to be super important as we're working through slope. So a lot of times I think students don't like slope because they're not great at adding and subtracting positive and negatives. So in terms of slope, I'm going to use a word that I don't even really know if it's technically a word, except in math class, is using kind of like talking about the steepness of a line, how steep a line is. It's really, I feel like I'm like a. So the steepness of a line. And so when I talk about that, and if you guys think about just in terms of math, you're probably like, I don't really care how steep a line is. But put yourself like on a bicycle. If you're riding a bike and I say, hey, let's go, like I had a biking class in summer school and we'd go to the lake. That's a lot of times the place we'd meet. And there was students who weren't super comfortable using bikes that have gears and that, because they were like middle school kids and the handbrakes. And so some kids were afraid to go down that really big hill going towards the lake because they were afraid to fall. And so how steep that line, that hill was really important to them. Or if I said, let's go run on the school property, and I said, let's go run up the back hill by, the practice football field or whatever, you guys would care if I told you to run uphill versus downhill. So how steep a line is doesn't seem like a big deal, like on a math problem, but in real life it really does. How steep a ramp is really important. Like if that ramp in the hallway was really, really steep, it'd be really tough for our custodians who have to push like heavy objects up the ramp. So steepness of a line is something that's super important. We'll use it quite a bit. And we're going to talk about steepness of a line in a couple different ways. The first thing we're going to talk about is something called the rise over the run. You've probably heard that before. So rise over run. And what I mean by that, rise is how much I go up, but it could also be how much we go down. So rise over run, so up and down. Then run is going to be left and right, where right is positive and then left is negative. So talking about that and how steep a line is, so if I'm talking about going uphill, I'm talking about how much I go up by how much I go over. You kind of almost make it into little steps. We're going to use the coordinate points quite a bit. So the coordinate points, when I'm talking about those, and we talked about this, actually I don't know that we've talked about this in this class. I'm getting confused with geometry. We're going to use 2 coordinate points. When I use those 2 coordinate points, I'm going to call the first coordinate point x and y 1, and then the other one x and y 2. So just like if I never knew any of your guys' names, I would just like refer to you as like a student. I'd have to somehow find a way to like specify like Landon student 1 and Tucker student 2, like somehow like calling them a number or something, some sort of specification to know which one I'm talking about. So there's point 1 and point 2 is the way we're going to write those coordinate points. So we're going to use those to figure out slope here. So we can talk about positive, negative, and zero slope and undefined. So I'm going to show you guys a video now. So these are, hopefully it's not too loud for me. You might have seen this video before. It's kind of a famous slope video. We'll go the newer slope dude here. You guys seen slope dude before? Alright, so I'm going to warn you guys here. So slope dude's kind of an old video. Super low technology, but that's kind of what makes it funny. If you haven't seen this before, and it's going to get stuck in your head, and that's a good thing, because you'll remember it. So I once had this student who hated school, and he was like, have you ever heard of slope dude? And I mean, the fact that he was excited about a video like about math, I was very, very happy, and I was glad to watch it, and my students loved it. So it's the love-hate slope dude relationship here.
Welcome to the adventure of Slope Dude. Meet Slope Dude. He loves to ski. We are going to follow him and he'll teach us some important aspects of slope. This is the course he's skiing today. Again, what he says will teach us about slope. You need to remember that Slope Dude always skis toward the right or eastward. When he starts out, he's going uphill. It's hard work. He says puff, puff, positive as he goes up the mountainside. Puff, puff, positive, puff, puff, positive, puff, puff, positive. Now he's at the top. It was puff, puff, positive all the way up the mountain. But now he can look forward to the downhill. On the way down the mountain, he says, nice, negative, nice, negative. And now, after the downhill, he's in for the hardest part of the ski run, the long, flat part. He says, this is zero fun. This is zero fun. This is zero fun. This is zero fun. And as he finishes the flat part, he doesn't see well ahead, and all of a sudden, he comes to the edge of a cliff. It's straight down. So frightened is he that he says the worst curse word possible in math and in algebra. Undefined. This has been the Adventure Slope Dude. Remember always what he said during his ski trip. Up the hill or up the slope, he said, puff, puff, positive. On his downhill run, he said, nice, negative. On the long, flat part of the course, he said, this is zero fun. And finally, when he went over the vertical cliff and went straight down, he yelled the worst curse word of math and algebra, undefined. The uphill is a slope with a positive number, the downhill is a slope with a negative number, the flat part is a slope of 0, and the straight up and down or vertical part is undefined. This has been the Adventure of Slope Dude. Thanks for viewing.
I think part of the best part is just like how like monotone, like even keel the guy's voice is the whole time. So as much as you don't want it to get stuck in your head, it's probably a good thing it does, because somehow you'll never like let puff puff positive get out of your head, or the creepy nice negative that he says. And those are good ways. I mean, a lot of times you have to find a way to memorize things, otherwise you just forget. There are some really cool parts of that video, or good parts of that video, that I need to mention. So part of the rule that he says is that Slope Dude always travels to the east. Really, it's about perspective, because if I have a positive slope, so if I'm going uphill here, technically, depending on my perspective, if I was coming from, I was going east to west, it would actually be downhill, but we have to all have the same perspective. So this one would be going uphill, positive slope. So puff, puff, positive, going uphill. So he's working really hard to go up that hill. So you can try and draw a little mountain climber, or whatever you want that makes sense to you guys, that you'd be going uphill there. So that positive slope. Then we flip to where we have to go nice negative. So that's actually where you're skiing downhill, or sledding, or whatever you happen to be doing. So downhill, nice, negative.
Was that a Slope Dude sighting?
See?
They're all geeking out in my room. They heard the video.
They were not geeking out, so tell them that they'll love it eventually.
I was geeking out. You guys heard Slope Dude?
Yeah. Almost. We're almost there. Like another day or so. She loves y equals mx plus b. That's what, like her like token thing. She'll come in and say she's so proud that she knows that formula. So she always wants to come in when it's time to do that. So we'll call her in when it's time. But zero slope. Now this is where the video gets a little bit weird, because I think uphill would be harder. He says that flat is the hardest part, but it's still zero fun. Like, you know, that'd be like me saying, let's go sledding, and like I took you like right out here, like right outside our window. It's not any fun if it's flat. It'd be zero fun if it's just a flat line. Now, so you might want to write horizontal there. And then also, one of the things here we'll talk about is where the zero shows up in the fraction. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I left a little more space there. And then the last one is undefined, curse word in math. And so if you want to start cursing in math, just like you learn how to curse in other languages or something like that, in math, undefined is considered a curse word because it just gives us no answer. Like, it's kind of like, what does undefined really mean? There's not really an answer. We don't really have anything. So like when you drop your books in the hallway, rather than actually swearing, now you should say undefined. And you know, Mr. Hatfield will write you up, but no one else will care. So vertical line is undefined. Whoa. So vertical line is undefined. So that would be like if I let you guys go sledding like off the side of the building. You'd be like, bad idea, worst teacher ever that allowed that to happen. So you'd be falling off the side. Yeah, right, of course you would enjoy that. So, like, you'd fall off the side of the building. So, not a good idea. So, these two are kind of when slope is basically kind of weird. Either there's not a slope, or slope is so crazy and bad that we don't even have a word to describe it. Like, we're gonna die. So, yeah, we're all gonna die. Have you seen the video of the guy that like drove off the side of the Marquette interchange in Milwaukee? Like, he like went off like the side of the ramp, and then he landed like on his wheels, and like I think he flipped in the middle somewhere there, but he like landed on his wheels. But he was speeding, by the way.
He's alive.
Don't speed. He is alive though. It's crazy. And then a woman did it recently too. She was drunk driving, and she also lived. Like,
Well, and then he almost looked at his legs, and they came and they gave us tickets to Mexico.
well, right? Because
I'm like, oh my God, did you like add injury to?
well, and they set up some huge GoFundMe for the guy. Like somebody did, and then here to find out that he like didn't have a valid driver's license, and he was like going 20 over, like yeah. So yeah, yeah. Still, but yeah, you're like my back is broken, but
Here's some tickets for you.
right. Maybe don't drive like a moron though either. So, I feel like I have tons of maybe when you guys start driving, you'll get nightmares of this, like the Mario Kart, like going off the Rainbow Bridge and like just flying into like oblivion. Like I have that nightmare. So. Yeah, that'd be a undefined. That's what I'd be yelling as I'm like falling off the bridge. So we're talking about how to find the slope from the graph. We're going to use that rise over run to help us with this. And then we're just going to simplify once we have that. Now, on our graph paper here, I put some dots specifically so you kind of knew where to go from, because sometimes on my graphs, or your graphs in particular, you might not be able to tell exactly where all the points are to go through. So if I'm starting with line A, this red line, first of all, do you know if it's going to be positive, negative, 0, or undefined right away? What do you know, Tucker? It's negative. So A is going downhill. So going into like the problem, knowing letter A is going to be going downhill is a good thing to be aware of. So I already know it's going to be negative. So if this is a 3-point problem, I would say you already got a point out of it. So just having a negative slope is one of the things I'm looking for. From there, we're going to talk about that rise over run. So if I'm going, remember slope dude always travels to the east. We're going to travel to the east as well. So I'm going to start here as my first point, and then I can pick any of the other points on that line to go to. Do you want to go close or far? Close, okay. I think close is better as well. So there's point 2. So to go to point 1 to point 2, do I rise or fall? Fall. I'm going to go down. So I have to go down. When I'm going down, I'm going to count blocks, not lines. So how many blocks do I go down? 3. Right? If you count blocks, there's 3 there. Whoops, I already have the negative.
Negative 3.
There we go. So it's the negative 3. I went down 3. Then I'm going to come running over to the right. How many blocks is that? And count blocks careful. So you're down 3, and then you actually go over 3 as well. And since that's to the right, that's going to be a positive 3. We just want to simplify this now. What's negative 3 over 3? How does that simplify? Just negative 1. So our slope would be negative 1 for my red line. So what that means actually is I could have gone down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, and keep hitting that same red line if you did that. Sorry, you guys don't have the pretty colors that we do. Get the idea. So for letter B, we're going to find the slope here. Now again, I'm moving eastward, so I'm going to start at like the point here, and then I'm going to go over to, like, I don't know, let's go further this time just to show you. Point 2 there. But this time, in order to go to point 1 to point 2, I'm going to have to go up. So this is going to be an uphill graph. It's a pretty steep uphill. So I'm going to go up. And how much do I have to go up? How many blocks?
4.
It's 4 up, so positive 4. Are you guys kind of seeing how to count that?
You're doing C right now.
I'm doing C, thank you. We'll just move that over. Look at that. Here, come on over. There's C. Thank you for speaking up, and it's going to keep moving. Stop. All right, so C. Just trying to keep you guys on your toes. All right, so C. And then we're going to go over 2, right? And those are both positive, so 4 over 2, positive, would just be 2 over 1 or just 2. And then finally B, the way you always should go, A, C, D. We're going to go down to that blue line on the bottom down there. And again, just picking a couple of points to go from. You can just stick close, it's probably easiest. And again, this is uphill, but now this is going to be a less steep line than the previous one, but it is still going to be positive. So I'm just going up 1, and then over, how many is that, 4? 4. So up 1 over 4. Right? So finding the slope from a graph, this is probably the easiest way to do that. Being able to count up and over, down and over if needed. Before you flip the page, let's go back to the undefined and 0 slopes. So I want to talk to you guys about this in terms of rise over run. So the question is, with 0 slope, which part of the fraction is going to be 0? It's not both, actually. So rise over run. Rise is going to be 0 in this case. We're not going up or down at all. We're just staying flat and boring. So a 0 slope is going to be 0 over some number. So a 0 slope is going to be 0 on top, a number on the bottom. So that's one thing to point out. Now, when you have 0 over number, I do want you to say that slope is 0. I don't want you to leave it that way. I want you to simplify that to be 0. So then that means in the undefined, where's the 0 going to show up?
On the bottom.
On the bottom. There's no run. It doesn't change direction. So it's going to be a number over 0. So this is that problem you always hear about people talking about, is dividing by 0. Have you ever asked your phone that? What divided by 0?
Error.
Yeah, it makes fun of you. So we'll let you. So if you want to hear your phone mock you, or your Siri or whatever mock you, we'll let her do that this morning. We'll get mocked here. I always forget how to even find her because I don't use it ever. Hold what? Hold on. Just hold on the screen. Hey Siri. What's 0 divided by 0? Why is she not answering me? No, I'm not. I used to. How old is ya? How do I do it on my phone? Can you help me? Yeah. What's 0 divided by 0? All right. Oh, she's not going to, I don't know why she's not talking to me. All right. So it says, imagine you have 0 cookies and you split them evenly among 0 friends. See how many cookies does each person get? See, it doesn't make sense. And Cookie Monster is sad that there are no cookies, and your friends are sad because they don't exist. Oh, wow. This really escalated quickly. So dividing by 0 is not possible. So the idea is, let me see if I have 5 divided by 0. Oh, see, now they don't give a funny answer. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm not very tech savvy. My dad got us an Echo at home, for us as a gift, and we don't know how to use it. We have to like watch YouTube videos on like what to do. So my kids are so excited to set it up tonight, but like Mr. Donahue and I feel very old right now. Like we're like, how do you use this? So anyway, so dividing by 0 is where undefined comes from. So that'd be like saying I brought 20 cookies in, I'm dividing them amongst my 0 friends. I don't have any friends, so the cookies just vanish. Like that doesn't happen. Whereas if I had 0 cookies and I said I was dividing them amongst all of you guys, like there's no cookies, so that's mean. So understanding that 1 is an undefined answer and 1 is actually 0. All right, so how are we doing on time? We can do you guys want to use my board? And maybe let you guys It's not delayed though sometimes. Let me show you guys. So, you want to do a Kahoot instead? I was gonna let you guys do not Pictionary. You don't want to do Pictionary? No, like where you guys draw and you try to guess.
Oh, that's
Let's try it. Okay, let's try. Some of you guys are in on it. Okay, so I'm going to draw something, and if you guess it, you guys can steal the board from me. You don't have to draw. You can hand it off to somebody. You might change your mind. Okay. You still want to do a Kahoot? You can't do a Kahoot every day.
Well, tomorrow.
Yeah, we can do it tomorrow. How do I change the color? I don't know. That's a good question. We'd have to discover that. It's on the whiteboard. I don't know. We might have to have you guys try. All right. This is magnetic, so it sticks to everything. Okay. Okay. With all these fun toys we're learning. Okay, I want to draw something. You guys guess. If you don't want to draw, you can pass it off to someone that maybe is willing to. And I just want you guys to try using the board. So I'm going to stop it now, those of you guys online, unless you really want to watch Pictionary.